How can a state be born and disappear in less than a year? In the winter of 1946, a new state emerged in the Middle East. It had a president, an army, a flag, and a national anthem. But this state survived for only 11 months. Its name, the Republic of Mahabad. It was not defeated by military force, but collapsed due to geopolitical power struggles between the great powers. Yet decades after its collapse, its impact still lives on in Kurdish politics to this day. So how did this republic emerge? Why did it disappear so quickly? And why does its story still matter today?
Hostilities will end.
After the end of World War II, the Middle East had not yet entered a period of stability. Iran became a battleground for competition between the major powers, and the central authority in Tehran was weak in the country's peripheries. In this political vacuum, local movements began searching for new opportunities to redefine their place on the region's political map. In northwestern Iran, where the Kurds had lived for centuries, an unprecedented political experiment began to take shape, an attempt to build an autonomous system that combined national identity with political institutions. This experience would later become one of the most influential moments in the history of the Kurdish national movement. But to understand how things reached this point, we must go back to the early years of World War II. In 1941, Iran was under the rule of Shah Reza Pahlavi, who, despite declaring neutrality, secretly leaned toward Nazi Germany, a strategic miscalculation in the eyes of the Allies. In August of that same year, the Soviet Union and Great Britain moved, fearing that Iranian oil resources might fall into the hands of the Axis powers. Soviet forces advanced from the north, while British forces pushed in from the south. The Iranian army quickly collapsed under this dual invasion. Under this pressure, the Shah was forced to abdicate in favor of his son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, and leave the country. The central government found itself unable to impose its authority over large parts of the country. In the northwest, particularly in the Kurdish areas under the Soviet influence, an unprecedented political vacuum emerged. For decades, the Kurds in Iran had suffered from policies aimed at marginalizing their identity, with restrictions imposed on their language and culture. Yet beneath this surface, national consciousness was gradually forming. Secret organizations emerged, such as the Kamala Jianawe Kurdistan, the Society for the Revival of Kurdistan in 1942, which sought to preserve Kurdish identity and revive its political aspirations. With the weakening of the central state, local populations found themselves facing a rare opportunity for political action. In the city of Mahabad in particular, a group of intellectuals and notables began organizing political efforts to fill this vacuum. Amid these transformations, the figure of Qazi Muhammad emerged. He was not merely a political leader, but a religious figure and judge who combined spiritual authority with modern national awareness. Fluent in several languages and open to democratic ideas, he succeeded in gaining the trust of both intellectual elites and tribal leaders. He was known as Peshawar. In the 1930s, he joined the Koybun organization and later, in 1942, contributed to the founding of the Kamala. At that time, the Soviet Union, having established control over northern Iran, viewed Kurdish aspirations as a pressure card against the government in Tehran and Western powers, particularly regarding oil concessions. It did not merely observe, but provided political support and encouraged local leadership to take bolder steps. In 1945, the Kamala transformed into a public political party, the Kurdish Democratic Party of Iran, which called for autonomy within Iran. By the end of 1945, Iranian forces had completely withdrawn from Mahabad, leaving the city and its surrounding areas under the control of the Kurdish Democratic Party. Thus, the ground was set for an unprecedented historical moment, and all eyes turned toward Mahabad. On January 22, 1946, the city of Mahabad witnessed a moment that would remain etched in the political memory of the Kurdish people. On that winter day, large crowds gathered in Chwar Square, the Square of the Four Torches, located in the heart of the city, to witness an unprecedented event in the region's history. At the center of the square, Qazi Muhammad stepped onto a simple platform, surrounded by party leaders and tribal chiefs. The scene was solemn, reflecting a mixture of anticipation and hope. Yet the most strategically significant presence was that of Mullah Mustafa Barzani, who arrived with hundreds of his Peshmerga fighters from Iraqi Kurdistan. This presence was not merely military support, it carried a deep symbolic meaning. The Kurdish national project was beginning to transcend the political borders drawn by modern states in the region. Qazi Muhammad stood and delivered a historic speech, declaring the establishment of the Republic, based on the principle of the right of peoples to self-determination. Following the speech, the Kurdish flag was officially raised for the first time in Chwar Square, with its three colors: red symbolizing the blood of martyrs, white representing peace, and green reflecting the land of Kurdistan, with a golden sun at its center symbolizing freedom. At that moment, Qazi Muhammad, who was declared president of the Republic, took the oath of office before the crowd. This was not merely a symbolic declaration. Within a few weeks, the institutions of the new state began to take shape. On February 11th, the government was officially announced, consisting of 13 ministers under the leadership of Haji Baba Sheikh. One of the most significant decisions made by the new leadership was the establishment of a national army. The Peshmerga forces, led by Mullah Mustafa Barzani, formed the backbone of this army after he was appointed commander-in-chief of the armed forces. The territory of the Republic, as declared at the time, included the city of Mahabad as its capital, along with nearby towns and regions such as Bukhan, Piranshar, and Oshnavy. Although this geographic area was limited and did not encompass all Kurdish regions in Iran, it represented the first modern political experiment of Kurdish self-rule in the region. Perhaps the most important achievement, however, was the cultural transformation the Republic witnessed. For the first time, the Kurdish language became an official language in administration and education. After many years of marginalization, children were finally able to learn in their mother tongue. So it was not merely a new state that was born, but with it, the hopes of an entire nation for a different future were born as well. The Republic of Mahabad was not merely a political or military project. It also represented an ambitious cultural and social experiment. During its 11-month existence, its leaders attempted to build the institutions of a modern state in record time, as if they understood that time was not on their side. Despite its short lifespan, the Republic achieved unprecedented initiatives. Education in Kurdish was made compulsory and free. The first secondary school for girls was opened, and literacy classes were established. Due to the lack of textbooks, intellectuals took on the task of translating curricula. The Kurdistan Printing House, the newspaper Kurdistan, and a local radio station were also founded, turning Mahabad into a vibrant cultural center. The role of women was one of the most distinctive aspects of the experience. Qazi Muhammad encouraged women's participation in public life, and the Mahabad Women's Union was established to raise awareness of women's social and cultural rights. His wife and daughters were among the first to take part in these initiatives. Economically, the Republic faced significant challenges due to limited resources and complex political conditions. Nevertheless, the government attempted to organize local economic activity and establish trade relations with the neighboring Azerbaijan People's Republic with support from Soviet advisors. On the legal front, the leadership sought to establish a more just judicial system, which contributed to a decline in crime rates in areas under the Republic's control. From raising the Kurdish flag and adopting the national anthem, Rakib, to printing the first school book in Kurdish, every step served as a symbolic declaration of the Kurds' ability to build their own institutions and manage their affairs. Despite its brief existence, the Republic of Mahabad presented an early model of transforming national aspirations into political reality. It proved, even if only for a short time, that a dream could become reality, even within a complex regional environment surrounded by major challenges. But the fate of the Republic of Mahabad was closely tied to the fragile balance of international power that emerged after World War II. Its existence was not based solely on its internal strength, but also on the support of the Soviet Union, which provided it with indirect political and military backing. However, this support was not driven by a long-term commitment to the Kurdish project. Rather, it was part of a broader geopolitical game. Soviet leader Joseph Stalin used Kurdish and Azerbaijani aspirations as leverage in negotiations with the government in Tehran to secure oil concessions in northern Iran. In response, Western powers, particularly the United States and Great Britain, applied increasing diplomatic pressure through the United Nations to force the Soviet Union to withdraw its forces from Iranian territory. The decisive turning point came in March 1946, when Stalin agreed to withdraw Soviet troops in exchange for Iranian promises to grant the oil concessions he sought. By June, the withdrawal had effectively begun, leaving the Republic of Mahabad completely exposed on the strategic level. This withdrawal not only revealed the Republic's weak position in the international balance of power, but also exposed internal tensions within Kurdish society itself. Some tribal leaders, fearing the loss of their traditional influence, chose to align with the central government in Tehran, weakening the political base upon which the Republic had relied. The Shah's government saw an opportunity to reassert control. In December 1946, the Iranian army first advanced toward Azerbaijan, which collapsed quickly with little resistance. This development had a devastating psychological impact on Mahabad's leadership. Faced with this new reality, the Kurdish leadership found itself before a difficult choice. The military wing, led by Mustafa Barzani, insisted on continuing resistance. But Qazi Muhammad made a different decision. He believed that an unequal military confrontation with the Iranian army would lead to widespread destruction and severe suffering for civilians. Therefore, he chose to surrender in an attempt to avoid a humanitarian catastrophe. For many, this decision was a tragic moment that revealed the limits of relying on external support in conflicts ultimately determined by regional and international power balances. After Iranian forces entered Mahabad, Qazi Muhammad was arrested, along with his brother Sadr Qazi and his cousin Saif Qazi. They were subjected to a swift military trial on charges of treason. At dawn on March 31, 1947, in the very square where the Republic had been declared just 1 year earlier, Chwar Square, they were executed by hanging. Some accounts state that Qazi Muhammad refused to be blindfolded before his execution and said his final words, "I want to see my homeland in the last moment of my life." As for Mullah Mustafa Barzani and his fighters, they refused to surrender. Instead, they began a long retreat through the mountains of Kurdistan toward the Soviet Union, a journey that later became one of the most famous legends in modern Kurdish history. Thus, only 11 months after its declaration, the Republic of Mahabad came to an end. But its story did not. Mahabad may appear to have been a political failure, but it became a foundational symbol of modern Kurdish identity. It proved that the Kurds are capable of building a state with functioning institutions, and that their cause is not merely a theoretical dream. The flag of Mahabad is the same flag of Kurdistan today, and the anthem Rakib has become a national symbol. The experience of autonomy inspired Kurdish movements in Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and Syria. But the experience also carried a harsh strategic lesson for the Kurdish national movement. Relying on international powers is a risky gamble. The interests of major states are fluid and shaped by geopolitical calculations, while the national cause remains the only constant. The story of the Republic of Mahabad is an epic of hope and of the power of an idea that cannot be executed. In just 11 months, the Kurdish people proved that state building is not merely lines on a map, but a collective will and a readiness to pay the price. The republic fell, but it did not die. It became a symbol, a legend, and a source of inspiration. Its legacy remains alive every time the Kurdish flag is raised, every time the anthem Ay Rakib is sung, and every time a people insist on holding on to their identity. Today, history seems to echo once again. Iran stands once more at the edge. Will the past repeat itself? Will the Kurds in Rojhelat rise as they did in Mahabad? Will the Peshmerga intervene from Iraqi Kurdistan under the leadership of Masoud Barzani, the son of Mullah Mustafa Barzani? And will the international community and its allies honor their promises? These questions serve as a reminder that the legacy of Mahabad is not merely history, but a living lesson for the present and the future.